I caught Kathleen again. This is show number 41, May 22nd, and tonight we have Laura Leslie on the phone, on the Google Hangout on the jpeg2RAW show, and we have Kathleen back.
Hello.
Kathleen, how are you? Last week was a little bit of a weird week. We had to do the show on an odd night because of me getting food poisoning.
Yes.
So that kind of threw everything off, both for the host and for a lot of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we're back now to our regular schedule.
That's great.
And, so I want to start off with something personal, but for me, and then I'll end it with something good. So next week we weren't supposed to have a show, and I don't think we will, and that is because I was going to be going on vacation. But what?
I'm thinking next week. I'm following you.
So next week we weren't supposed to have a show. But we have had an unfortunate turn of events, and I want to, let's see if I can get it here.
I'm nervous. I'm really nervous right now.
We have if you're a dog lover, if you're a pet lover, you, yes, you know how much of a part of the family they become. And we have a black lab who's only 7. She is the best dog we've ever had, and my wife is extremely attached, and so is she. She's the kind of dog where if you had a piece of steak and said stay and threw it at her, she could let it hit her in the mouth and fall to the ground, and she would not touch it.
Aww.
And if you told her give me a hug, she would lean into you and give you a hug.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. Last week she started bleeding from the private area, and we took her in to have her checked. We thought she had a urinary tract infection. She did. She actually did have a urinary tract infection. Gave her a lot of antibiotics. And if you looked at her, you would never know anything's wrong, even today. The antibiotics killed the infection, but it did not. She kept bleeding. So we found out Sunday that she has a large mass in her bladder area. And we think that's why she's bleeding. And today she even threw up a little bit of blood. But if you were to see her, she is like she doesn't know anything's wrong at all. She's still just fine. So Thursday we're going to go have a CAT scan, and we'll see, what that reveals. But I know it's going to be, absolutely devastating to my wife and to my boys. My boys are both very attached to her.
Good luck. Those are some wonderful shots.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
So I've been married to my wife for 19 years, and I've never seen her as emotional as she was. With Maggie. Maggie's our dog's name. Maggie's our dog's name. Oh, Laura, do you have the sound back on?
No, it's shut off.
Sound back on?
Is it gone now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I had opened up a new window, so I think that was what it was.
So, we're not wanting to go on vacation next week because we don't know what next week's going to bring, and we definitely don't want to rush anything along with her. We want, until she has pain and we have to do something, we're not going to do anything. So I just wanted to share. So that's the bad news. Let's get that out of the way.
We're sorry, Mike. That's awful. I hate that you guys are going through this.
Yeah,
Everyone who's lost a pet that's close to them knows how difficult it is when they're sick and they're not feeling good, and the future's just kind of, up in the air. So it's tough. We'll be praying for your family. It's difficult.
Well, thank you. And DBs, I can't see anything. I don't know what's going on there for you.
Can everyone else out in chat see things?
Out in chat can see. Okay, so that's the bad news. On the good news, Kathleen, since you were off last week, we had Ben on. Great show.
That's what I've heard. Okay, not just from you. I've heard from a number of people how inspirational that show is, like over and over again. So I know that I need to make the point to go back and watch it. And everyone out in chat, if you haven't seen last week's show, you guys should do the same, because I keep hearing from all these different people how inspirational he was and how great he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was wonderful.
Yeah.
Some great shots.
And we have hit a milestone with the Facebook group, 1,000 likes.
No way!
Finally,
that's awesome.
Finally hit that. And if if you're listening to this we're now available on YouTube. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on Stitcher Radio. Stitcher Radio is really starting to grow. We're getting a lot of new listeners on Stitcher Radio, and the Stitcher Radio, I'm getting some feedback again, Laura.
Okay, is that me?
That's all right. And for people for Stitcher, if you're not familiar with Stitcher, that is an audio only podcast thing where you listen to it. So a lot of people are probably like me, they listen to the podcast in the car, they want audio. So we're getting a lot of things there. Plus the Facebook group itself is really growing good.
Yeah.
And we got a guy out there right now, Ryan from Ryan and Denise. Mm-hmm. That was on show number 33, and he's joined the Facebook group, and so has Mike Coletta. Not Mike Coletta. I think Mike Coletta may be in there.
I think he's in the group as well.
Mike Oblinsky.
Yeah, Oblinsky.
From way back.
That's something I've wanted to actually put on the page recently, because we all from time to time will post images for constructive criticism or just to be seen, and I'm not sure if everyone in the group understands how surrounded we are by such great professional people who are giving their free advice. Like, it's a really great page to be a part of, because if you're looking for that advice, get to know who the screen names are, go and search out their work, and you might just be shocked on who's giving you their advice on your images. It's a really cool place to be.
It is, and we got a good variety. We got not just people of the caliber of Kathleen and Mike and Ryan, but people my caliber and people who are just learning. And you got such great resources there, and people willing to share and help out.
Yes.
Now, did I tell you that I actually got in trouble with Ryan's wife, Denise?
Yes, I heard, but you need to tell everybody the story.
Yeah, so because it sounds weird when I say it like that.
Yeah. Really. Fill us in, Mike.
So, I often do a search for jpeg2RAW on Google and see if anybody's talking about it, and I came across Ryan and Denise had a new video. I love the one they had on their site. And I said, let me go look at this. So I look at it on YouTube. Excellent. Loved it. So I immediately posted it into the Facebook group. Well, apparently that one wasn't ready for public consumption. There was still, whenever you are doing a video, you've got multiple versions, you're testing them out and everything. So I found something that maybe wasn't ready for everybody to look at. So Denise, very nicely asked me to remove that post, and I did, obviously. And
shame, Mike. Shame.
Hey, I'm trying to help. But I also asked her, hey, as soon as you do have the final out, let me know. And she did. She let me know a couple of days ago, and it's, really would like to see the original one, the one I saw, and compare it, because the one I'm seeing now, I love the one I'm seeing now, so I don't know what I'm missing.
And there's a link to it on the jpeg2RAW page. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go check out the group page, because there's a link to it, and you guys can watch their new video. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool. So that's that. I don't really. What else did I have? Oh, we have a new segment that we do at the very end of the show. So if you hung out last week and stayed after you thought we ended the show, we actually did another little segment. We're doing like a small little 5-10 minute. I think it was a little more than 6 minutes last week, Tim.
Yeah, I think it's sort of what.
Little segment where we do like a recap of the show and putting that out as a different podcast, so maybe more people can find the show and listen to a smaller segment, get a feel for it, and see if they want to listen to the full thing.
Right. Well, people are more likely to download the 6-minute podcast and then hear the topic and say, oh, you know what, I should listen to the rest of this because it's interesting.
That's a great idea. I love it.
So Kathleen, you had something you wanted to go over with us?
I do. First of all, I want to say how extremely excited I am that Laura is our guest today on the show. This has been a long time coming for me. Laura is actually one of my personal favorite photographers. Like, I have on my computer a bookmark thing for all of my favorite photographers, and I probably have 5 or 6 photographers that I have said, these people hung the moon for me. And Laura has been one of them for a long time. And I actually contacted her at one point, or maybe you contacted, I don't remember. We got in contact. I'm sure I probably stalked you first. But anyway, since then we've become friends, and I've convinced her to finally come on the show. And so I'm really, really, really glad that you're here tonight.
I know. I'm so glad you asked me.
Well, good. We did actually have a topic come up on our jpeg2RAW group page, something, Laura, that we want to get your input on. I actually went back and asked most of our or I asked all of them, and most of them replied, all of our past pros that have been on the show, we asked them this question: what do you need to know before you go pro? Or how do you know that it's time to go pro? And the reason we brought that question up to them is because there was a thread on the page where a girl had posted an image and said, I think I'm ready to start charging for my work. Can you tell me what you guys think? Here's an image. And of course, everyone was chiming in on their own opinion of it. And the one thing that, you know, people kept saying is we can't tell from one image. Well, and that's the truth. And so the girl either sent me or put out a link to more of a body of her work. And she had mentioned in the thread that she wasn't sure if she should start charging yet, because she had been told that she shouldn't be charging for photography until she had a body of work that was ready to be published.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's what I thought too. Like, the comment kind of took me back a little bit, and I was like, oh, wow, I feel like you've been given some really bad advice.
Yeah,
and so I looked at her work, and I felt like she had a good, quality of work, and that she was technically proficient and she had consistency. And so I gave her 2 thumbs up and I said, go for it. But it kind of sparked a question. Like, if you're that person sitting in the seat, there's a lot of talk in the industry of we shouldn't be charging until you're ready. Well, then what do we need to know, or where should we be for us to be ready? What do you think, Laura?
Well, I'm basing it off of personal experience, like when I first started, but I photographed a lot of friends and family. You know, I would photograph anyone. I'm like, please let me photograph you so I can get the practice. Mm-hmm. And like, you definitely have to charge something for your time, because that's your time and that's how you're going to learn is, you know, charging a little bit. You're going to start out low and then you're going to go up higher. Mm-hmm. But like, you definitely have to, you don't necessarily have to have a good camera, but you have to be proficient with your camera. You know, you can't be shooting on auto.
Right.
So, you know, if you know your camera, like if you're shooting in manual mode, then that's good. So, and I would say, you know, even, I mean, you have to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. So everybody, you know, every one of us has had to start somewhere. So even if it's like, you know, $50, you know, that's somewhere. So, and your work's not going to be perfect when you first start out. You're going to have to, you know, it's a process that comes after a couple of years. So I would say, you know, if you have a good camera and you know that you have that passion and that drive, you have a computer, then start charging. Mm-hmm. Even if it's, you know, enough to cover your costs, you know, your TV and gas. And then after you get practice, then you can, you know, raise your prices.
Well, the first thing that you said was actually the one thing that across the board all of our professionals said. And so I kind of surmised what everybody said, and I put it into 6 tips. The first one is, of course, being technically proficient with your gear. And there's 2 parts to that. I said to know the exposure triangle and how to make it work for you, and to make sure that you feel comfortable that you can deliver a consistent product. Now, the consistency is going to grow in time, but you just need to make sure.
Yeah, when I started, I don't think that my work truly got consistent until after the 2nd year. And one day I was just looking at my work and I'm like, everything's, because I would run different actions on different images. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even realize that consistency was important when I first started. So I think that was also, you know, on the process.
I would say that consistency in this realm would mean that you are consistently walking away with happy clientele. That would be important.
Yeah.
I know that Mike Coletta said that if you're relying on the action to make your work look cool, then you're probably not ready yet. Like, your work should be able to stand alone, and then your action or whatever you do to it processing-wise should be topping on the cake. Number 2, when you're fully committed, you know that it's time to go pro when you're fully committed to the time it will take to grow your business and your craft, because it is very time consuming.
It is very, yes, very.
I mean, I think that people think, there's lots of jokes out there about, this is what we think a photographer does, and this is what they really do type of thing.
Yeah, I know. I see those.
Yeah. Scott Wyden had a really good quote. He says, you must be committed, meaning time, energy, financial investment. It takes nonstop hard work. And that is true. Laura and I were actually talking on the phone today about we eat, sleep, and dream photography, and then we brush our teeth later. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Do you think you have to think of it like a business? Don't you think? For instance, when I was shooting for money, I was thinking I'm going to take all that money I made and buy another lens. And I may have only made $500, but that's enough for me to get that $1,500 lens. So I wasn't thinking like a business. I was thinking like a hobbyist.
Right. That's totally right. And it's even when you are a business, it's hard not to think as a hobbyist, because I get my big checks in, I say big checks, but when my biggest checks come in, my biggest sales, my first thought is, oh my gosh, I can get my lens. That's my first thought. And
I'm sure there is some of that.
There is.
And that's really your first 2 years, or when you're starting out, that's all you're doing is reinvesting.
That's it.
Right.
Every penny. Yep.
I mean, to be a photographer, it's a lot of equipment and actions, insurance, everything.
Well, actually, number 3, which I thought was a really great tip, this one came from Scott Green. He says, when people start calling to hire you that are not friends and family, that's a good key that you're probably ready to start charging and have a business. And then number 4 is, when you have all your business ducks in a row. So know your tax codes, get a business license, and then of course Rachel and Crystal from the Pure Action set reminded us to make sure that you have insurance to cover yourself if something were to happen. Rachel Brinke actually did a great blog posting on this. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in chat in a few minutes, because I think everyone should go look at it. She's very business savvy when it comes to running a photography business, and she also offers a wonderful workshop it's called a business revamp, that if people don't know where they stand, it would be a good idea to take that workshop. And then the number 5 tip was understand the cost of doing a business, because like you said, in your early days, even though you feel like you're covering your costs, unless you do the actual math, you might not be making anything. I know for me, the first wedding I ever shot, it was film. You're going to laugh, Laura.
Wow, was it?
It was film, and I only charged them, I think it was $300 for the wedding, and it cost me $350 to develop the film. So, obviously I made zero. I came out in the hole.
Well, are you talking about going full-time pro, or are you talking about just charging for your work? Because I feel like a lot of those points are, that would be intimidating for a new photographer. Oh my gosh, I have to do all these things. Right?
I completely agree.
Those things, honestly, for me, a lot of those things didn't come until later. It was, just I figured them out. But those big points like insurance, I realized that a little bit later. That wasn't something that I had right away. So.
Right. No, I totally agree. So they are two different things. If you're just wanting to know if you should start charging, then just obviously being technically proficient with your work, and when people start calling you that aren't friends and family, that's a good idea that you should start charging. But if you're going to try and do this as a business, then all those things need to come in hand with the business license and the insurance and all that kind of stuff. And I also feel like, Laura, that when you and I started our businesses, for me, this information was nowhere.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was nowhere. And now every time you turn around, there's some other amazing photographer who is saying, you got to know how to run a business.
Honestly, when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I just not woke up, but I was like, I'm going to start my own photography business.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I did. And I started mine in auto, so there you go. But Sarah Cornish said, just because you can take a gorgeous image doesn't mean that you're going to be a great business person. Because if you're going to try and make this into a business, learning how to be a good business person is part of the task. It's not just learning your camera, it's learning the business. And
I think that's the biggest struggle for most photographers, because we're so creative and we have so much passion for photography, and it's all this business stuff starts to, swamp your head. And I think that's been that's a big challenge, and one that I hear from a lot of photographers. So
yes, I agree.
And I've talked about that a lot too, is that the business side, and we talked about it last week too, the business side ends up being 80 to 90% of the job of a photographer, and then the creative side is less. So when you get into it as a photographer, I think you think it's just the opposite. Business will be 10%. Now, if you had a partner, I think
Rachel and Crystal.
Rachel and Crystal.
Yeah, they do great with the partnership.
Who was the there's another lady we had. Her husband did a lot of the.
Is it Heidi Hope?
Heidi Hope.
Photography, yeah.
Her husband did a lot of the business side of it. So if you have a partner that can handle that, that is.
I know, not fair, right? Yeah, there's a girl out in chat. Her name is Tammy Young, and we're going to get her on this show one day too. And her husband does all of her bookkeeping for her, and we've been friends since college. And some days I'm happy that she has that, and other days I'm just really jealous because I don't get that at all.
No, wait. We all know your husband is more pro than you.
Yes, that's right. Yes, he likes to use the iPhone, and he's proficient at it.
He loves to give you comments and make sure that you're in the right.
So does he fit in the 6-step program?
Yes, he does. All right. Well, the last one is actually one of my favorites. This is number 6. This came from Scott Green as well. Acknowledge yourself as a photographer. You're a photographer. People have to know this. You have to believe it, because if you don't, no one else will. Yeah. And you are your best advertising, so put your best step forward. I remember a moment for me in my career was that I was a photographer, but I just never really called myself one. And one of my best friends introduced me to someone else as his friend, and oh, she's this amazing photographer. And to hear someone refer to me with that term really gave me a boost of confidence. So acknowledge yourself as a photographer, and that would give you a good push to get yourself started.
Well, I know for me, like, the number one thing, besides, because I didn't know any of the technical, the insurance, I really didn't know much about Photoshop. I just knew that I wanted to do it without a doubt. Like, I had this just like desire, passion. I think if you have that passion, then you're going to conquer all of those things. Like, if you have that passion, you're going to go so far. So, that's really, really important. If you have that and you're freaking out about all the other stuff, like, I can't do this, how do I start? Like,
it'll
don't
come.
worry about it. Just start with one thing. Like, maybe just start Googling websites or something, because that's really how I started my business, was Google. I researched everything.
Oh, yeah, me too. YouTube's my best friend.
Yeah.
How do I get that blurriness in the back of my pictures?
Oh, yeah.
It's called bokeh, but it's pronounced bouquet. I got it. Okay. Moving on.
And, what do you think about this? Brown photography out in chat. I think that's how you say it.
Bianca?
No, above that.
Brown. Okay.
Confidence is a must. So I would think that, when you're if you're doing a wedding, or maybe you shouldn't start with a wedding first, but if whatever, if you're at a shoot, you don't want the client thinking he doesn't know what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Be confident in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And if you're not at that stage, if you're not confident, at least where you can portray that you're confident, you may not. You may be scared. You may be nervous. But if you can't fool the client into thinking you're confident and know what you're doing, then maybe you're not ready. What do you think of that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, well, and then, the other thing is that clients are hiring you. Yes, they're hiring for what you can do, but they're hiring you. I know a lot of my clientele, like, they're my friends now, and they weren't friends when they hired me, but now we're friends, and they keep coming back to me because there's a loyalty there, because they feel the same way I feel. We're now friends. And so that comes hand in hand with being confident with who you are, and, being personable with your clientele and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know my first wedding maybe it was like my second wedding, but the first wedding really didn't count because it's like pop-up flash and, just a friend when I was in college.
Right.
The first real wedding I ever did, it was still for a friend, and I wanted to I knew that I wanted to do it and get practice, but I was so nervous when she was walking down the aisle. Like, my hand was shaking. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but the pictures, they turned out fine. So I think it was the first, you're gonna be nervous at first.
Yeah. Well, tell us about how you actually got your start, Laura. Why don't
and how long have you been doing it?
I started UGA. I went there for my photography degree, and I graduated in 2007. So while I was there, I was kind of photographing a few weddings here and there, but I still didn't even have any idea that I was going to be a wedding photographer. I was just working.
Was that your major?
It was.
Okay, cool.
And the reason, they made us pick a major So they're like, you know, you have to declare a major when you're in the art school. And I'm like, I don't know, photography sounds nice. Let's try, you know. So it's just kind of like, honestly, that's, you know, people ask me that, and I tell them it was random. So, but then, like, when I first started, like, my first class, it was just, you know, I fell in love with it.
Weston, you need to go get in bed right now, honey.
We have some child care issues right now. So how long have you been, how long have you considered yourself pro?
I graduated December 2007 from UGA, and then I unofficially started my business in 2008, but that was just putting a website up. So that whole first year was kind of just like, what am I going to do? So pretty much at the end, you know, middle end of 2008, you know, I officially started, so like 3.5 years.
Okay. And is that, and that's what you're doing full time?
Yep, full time.
Okay. While we're waiting for Kathleen, maybe I'll show a few of your photos. See if I can get those ready. Whoop, not my dog. We've already gone over the dog. One of the things that I want to talk, you have some very, very unique images, and you know, I've often said don't break the rules unless you know the rules. What is going on? We still have dog? Where we have dog? Okay. Here we go. Now we're back to normal. But you know, a lot of your images are very unique. Like this one that we have up now. Oh, whoops.
So when I tried to pull that screen up, that was when it was echoing. How do I pull that back up?
When you pull it up, there should be a way for you to mute it.
Yeah, you may have to wait 30 seconds for the advertisement to come up. Wait 30 seconds for the advertisement to come up.
Okay, you just heard Tim speaking, so...
Yeah, so it's muted and it's playing.
Well, I don't hear any feedback now, so maybe you got it right.
I get it? Oh, okay, I see it now.
Yeah, I think it's working now. Are you using a tilt shift lens on some of these?
Yes, I am, and that is probably one of my favorite lenses. So, well, not one of my favorite, like, I have 4 lenses that I shoot with, and I feel like I use each lens for, you know, a different thing. Like, I see a scene, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the tilt shift on this. So, but I do like the tilt shift just because it kind of blurs out, you know, if there's anything distracting, or if it's, you know, just a very clean scene. I like the blur around it.
So one thing I've noticed, a general theme, maybe this is just me picking it up, is that the environment that you're taking the pictures in is very important to you.
It is.
That's
yeah,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I style my sessions, like I put a lot of thought into them before, you know, we go out and photograph, because, and I'll tell my clients that too, so it's not just, hey, let's pick this nice park and go take some pictures. I actually have them fill out a get-to-know-you form. It's on my blog. It's a questionnaire, and ask questions like, you know, when did you guys meet? Where was your first date? What's your favorite thing to do together? And that really gives me inspiration for my locations and the way that I style them. So I feel like that's a huge part of my business.
One of my favorite things about your work is that I feel like it's doubly composed. And what I mean by that is that it's not just your composition of your images that are cool. It's like whatever you put your subject in front of has its own natural composition to it. And so it's like when you're scouting for your locations, you're looking for architecture, you're looking for lines. Like I can see in your head how you're thinking. You're like, ooh, there's 3 of those. I like 3s. Or, oh, there's 2 of those.
Like,
yes, exactly. I love it because it's like you've composed your image around beautiful composition. So that's why I say it's doubly composed. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I didn't even realize that I did that for a while. It was just what I was attracted to. And then I started to see this pattern in the way that I blogged images, and actually have a photo album on my Facebook page. And it's like, do you think I have a symmetry problem? Where like, I blog the images, everything matches and lines up. And
yes,
that's definitely, I noticed that was a pattern in my work.
Mm-hmm.
See, that just kills me because you have it naturally built into you, and that's something I have to struggle with. Is the I know some of the technical stuff, shutter. I know, you know, I'm more of a technical guy. The shutter speed, aperture, all that. With you, you're more of the what's the other side from technical?
Creative.
Creative, yeah. You're more the creative. It just naturally seems to be there, which is really, I think, the harder of the two things to have.
Well, what I think is really cool is when those merge, because they obviously have with you, because I was always so very creative and like knew nothing about the technical. Like I knew exactly how I wanted an image composed in my head, and then when I took it and it didn't come out the way that I had it in my head, then I would have to like sit there and reread the same paragraph in a photography book over and over and over again until the technical part would click, and then it would finally click. And it's funny because I said that to someone the other day and they said, oh my gosh, I totally would have pegged you as being equal technically as you are creative. And I was just like, I am so glad I finally pulled the wool over in someone's eyes. But it takes years. Like if you're just technical, then to add the creativeness to your art takes years to master, and vice versa. If you're creative, then to add the technical to your artwork, it takes years to really feel like you're mastering that. And you're doing so great, Laura.
Well, thank you. I feel like it took me years to, master both of them. So
now we just had someone in chat ask, what is a tilt shift lens? Can you give us a...
It's actually like the 4x5 cameras, the film cameras. They have some of the cameras, they have built-in tilt shift, and I first used that in college. And Canon, I think Nikon has one too, but it's a manual focus lens that actually tilts. Like you can actually tilt the lens.
Do you have yours in your office right now?
Yeah, I think I do. Let me find it.
I'm waiting for the perfect image to come up so that really shows the tilt shift.
What the tilt shift is, yeah. It's such a cool thing, and it really takes a while to learn how to master how to use it, especially because it's, it's manual focus too.
And mine just bit the dust, so I have to send it in. And the first time, I don't know what happened to it, but can you see it?
Oh, hold on. Let me.
Yeah, turn it to the side too.
Let me bring us up.
So it's actually, this lens has a really long learning curve because...
Hold it up a little bit more. There you go.
See it? Okay.
Yeah.
So you can actually like tilt. See the tilts? And then you can shift, which I never use the shift. I only use the tilt. You can actually see how the lens...
Ooh.
Wow, look at that. I didn't know that it did that as well.
Yeah, and you can also rotate it. So there's there's so many different things that you can do with it. So
what's the reason for the shifting part?
I think that's for landscape. I don't know. I never really used the shift part, honestly. So
because I always thought a tilt shift lens was used mainly for like architecture. If you're taking a picture of a tall building.
Yeah.
Or you've seen it a lot where like you take.
It messes with like the perspective. So.
Right.
It tries to correct it in camera.
You've seen it a lot where there's like maybe a village, or you're up high, you're shooting down low, and you do an effect to make it almost look like a model, like it's model stuff. It's not real.
Yeah.
It's miniature.
Yeah.
That's that way, and a lot of times you hear about tilt shift with the lens baby.
Correct.
Yeah.
Although that looks like
one of those too, but
lens
do you
baby.
prefer your tilt shift over your lens baby, or do you have a preference?
I only use the lens baby for ring shots. So for my macro shots, I have I bought some filters for it. So I'll just put those on my lens baby, and that's what I do all my ring shots with. But the tilt shift is, the wide angle, pretty much the wide angle, a lot of detail shots.
And what you're talking about with your filters is that they are magnification filters that you can buy for any lens that take the, fill in the blanks for me, people. It takes your focal distance and it can multiply it for you so you can get closer. Okay.
And I know, they have Canon has a good line of macro lenses, but I just bought this and I got the macro filters and it works perfectly for our ring shots, and so I've never tried anything else.
So I guess we can assume you use Canon.
Yes, I do.
Don't you have two 5D Mark IIs?
I have a 5D Mark II and the original 5D.
And the original 5D. Are you going to eventually upgrade to a 5D Mark III, you think?
Yes, I tried one out. My friend Gracie, she has the Mark III, and I was shooting with her, and I tried it out, and it was beautiful. Like, you can just barely hear the click. It just sounds, I don't know. And the focus, I mean, obviously, you know, that's a lot better. So I don't know when I'm going to upgrade because I just invested a lot into film, and, you know, I'm starting my film, you know, venture, so I don't even know if what I'm going to be doing this year. It's going to be like 50-50 film digital, so I'm not ready to get it quite yet, but
yeah,
I'm sure eventually I will.
So you don't want to upgrade all the way to like a Nikon D800 or something?
No, I actually shot, my first camera was Nikon digital in college, so.
Now, Laura and I have talked about the Nikon Canon debate for her, and
I didn't mean to bring that up.
It's okay. Everyone has their own opinion, and this is someone who has used both and didn't choose Nikon for once.
I'm sure there's one or two of those people out there.
There's one or two. But I think that she was the one that brought to my attention that Canon and Nikon saturate their images differently, which, you know, may not be news to everybody, but it was news to me when she said it to me. And that even if she has a side shooter at one of her weddings that is shooting Nikon and she's shooting Canon, that she sees a big difference afterwards when she's trying to post-process, and it makes her job extra long.
Yeah. And now, I imagine you shoot RAW, right?
Yes.
And, you know, the thing that we all know RAW, or most of us know that RAW is the raw image out of the camera. But between Canon and Nikon, that raw image is still different. And even within Canon and Nikon, from camera to camera, the raw image can be different. That's why, like, let's say you go get that Mark III or that Nikon D800 right when it came out and you had Lightroom. Lightroom probably could not pull up the images because Lightroom doesn't have what it needs.
The color profiles.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, you know.
Well, they changed the raw format also in a lot of camera bodies.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's something in there that's making it where it can't pull it up. It doesn't recognize the file because, you know, even from the D700 to the D800, from the Mark II to the Mark III, both Canon and Nikon made changes to the raw file.
So do you guys shoot like straight raw, or do you, Kathleen, you shoot Canon, right?
I do, and right now I'm shooting straight raw. I definitely see a point in shooting like a raw plus a JPEG. Is that what you do?
Well, I've been shooting with SRAW1, like pretty much, you know, for the past couple of years, just because my hard drives are filling up like crazy. And
so what is that? Does that compress it a little bit?
It's just a little bit smaller. It's still a raw file, but it's not, you know, you can still blow it up to really big, ridiculous image. And it just helps with, you know, your hard drive space.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to need to start doing that because I was just trying to clear out some images today and it's like, it's getting ridiculous and it goes so fast.
Yeah.
And what fills it up are my family pictures that I snap away, but I never have time to sit down and edit snapshots from around the house. But if I'm using my camera and it's set to RAW, then holy Moses, that's like a huge file for a picture of my kid eating a cereal, you know?
I still need to do my post on backing up and everything, because one of the things that came up last week, and I've heard this from other people too, like Ben last week, he didn't want to spend the $300-400 to get a backup solution when he was first starting off, because he had to choose between, do I want a new lens or do I want this, and he chose the lens, and he lost a bunch of files because he was getting up to go get a drink or whatever and hit the power cord and took the hard drive like you have, Kathleen, on his desk.
I know, I don't want to hear it.
Flung it across the room.
Oh my word.
And it broke, and he lost all the images on it. You know how much they wanted to charge him to get it off?
No.
It was over $2,000 they wanted to charge.
Can you please just
get it off?
Just send me an email with the least expensive things I need to buy. I'd like to see it in my inbox tomorrow, and I'm just going to do it because that just makes me shiver. That story just makes me shiver.
Well, he has a ton of images that was on there that he cannot sell. He gets orders for them, but he can't. Well, he actually is taking them down now, so he doesn't sell them. But he can't sell them because of that. And somebody said Drobo, that is a solution. That's a good solution, but it's a little expensive. So I have some other ones. And you mentioned, raw files do take up a lot of space, and hard drives, are starting to come back down in price. I would, I would find a way to not delete those files, and find a way to back them up.
Okay, well, I like the RAID system we talked about a few weeks ago. If you guys missed that show, you should go back and listen to it. And then Mike's also going to do a slam bang up job on a post for us with the blog about.
Here's the crazy thing is I hate writing, so I've built this up for so long. It's going to have to be pretty good, and it's going to be disappointing because I've built it up too much. It's like a movie, you expect to be really great, and then you go there and it's not all that great.
It'll be great.
And somebody's asking about the underwater shot, and
yes, oh my word, I love those.
So you do another segment. You do weddings, you do the portraits, you do another segment, which we're really not going to go over tonight. But since somebody asked about the underwater shot, you do. I always say this wrong. Boudoir. We're going to eventually, Mike Coletta, who mentioned it, and then somebody else says, we will eventually do a show on that topic. But
and Laura has unbelievable boudoir stuff. So even though we're not showing it tonight because it's not our topic, everyone in chat needs to go to her site and check it out. I've never seen anything like it. She has a different look from anyone I've ever seen. It's not pinup. It is sweet and romantic and then crazy sexy. It's really beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Very tasteful. That's what I thought. And I saw that. I sent Kathleen an email and said, hey, we've decided to put this topic off for a while, but maybe it's time to revisit that and think about it. And definitely Laura's somebody we need to look at.
Yeah.
Hers are
into second weddings, that is my absolute favorite thing to shoot is boudoir. If I could just be a wedding and boudoir photographer, that is, I would be 100% happy.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your underwater shot that we showed a few minutes ago. I know that you have underwater gear.
Yes. Okay. That was actually my first boudoir session that I ever shot. And, my first, real one. But one of my friends in Florida, her name is Shannon Mathis with Me and More Photo. She started to do boudoir probably about a year ago, and I was looking at her stuff, and I was just like, wow, this is so amazing. It's not, it's not tacky, it's not ugly, it's classy, and it's beautiful. And she had borrowed an underwater case, so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get an underwater case. So I went out on a whim, and I got an underwater case.
That just makes my heart happy for you to say, I went out on a whim and I just did it. Because look at what you're doing with it. It's beautiful.
Is it in this group? Am I in the right group?
I don't know. I don't remember what was before and after it.
Yeah, Laura sent me a lot of photos, so
what's hard for me about Laura is that I want her to come and photograph my family so badly, but I can't decide if I want a water session or if I want a session in my home or if I want just a family session or if I want just me and my husband. It's kind of I just need to hire you as my personal paparazzi, and that is all.
Well, it's actually really easy. I didn't know anything about the water case, and I got
I'll have to come back to
that. And it was just, it was just one of their basic ones. I have the link if anybody wants to email.
How much are they, just so we all know?
Well, I think I spent $1,900 on it because they are very expensive. Just to rent them, it was $400. So I'm like, I'm just going to get one because...
Yeah, why are you going to rent it for $400, right?
And then I called Adorama and I told them what lenses I had, and they sent me the correct port, and it all came in this box. And I'm like, what is all this stuff? And it literally took me maybe an hour to figure it out, and I tested it out in the bathtub, and I just put my camera in there, the same settings, because you can, it's going to take you a while to practice with it, but
it just feels different on your hands.
It feels different, and the focusing the only problem that I had was the focus, because I don't do normal focusing, I do back button focusing. So that's where you set your custom functions. You go in your custom functions. If nobody knows what that is, you have to go look that up. And because once I started back button focusing, my work changed dramatically. So I do the back button focusing with the camera, but it's hard when you're underwater trying to focus and take the picture. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll just take a deep breath, get under the water, and then I'll tell my model to go into the water and just take a picture. It's just it's easy as taking
there it is.
Photograph.
Yeah, I know. I have to. There we go. Finally, holy moly.
Oh, geez, the pressure. I just love it.
Now that we're done talking about it.
But it's really not that complicated. I was a little overwhelmed, but it didn't take me long at all to figure it out. And then sometimes what I'll even do is I had a wedding in Santa Rosa Beach, a few weeks ago, the water was freezing. I mean, it was so cold. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to get all the way in the water. So I just took my camera and I put it down in the water and started shooting with the water halfway in between, because that's what really gives that effect if you have the camera halfway in the water line. So
yes, I love it.
And just start shooting. It's not hard at all. So,
because I was listening and not paying attention. I mean, I was searching, not paying attention. What did you get? How did you cover up the camera so that it didn't break when you put it underwater?
It's a case that you can get for the Mark II, and I just got it from Adorama.
And a lot of those underwater cases I've seen are crazy expensive. How was this one?
Yeah, because I looked up
$1,900.
Yeah, and that was the cheapest one. Besides, I know that they have a bag that you could put it in, but I don't.
So I say that you do a water shot with Kathleen so you can help pay off that lens.
I've used it so many times that I'm always asking. You know, I did a day after session in the ocean with the bride and groom, and it was amazing. Like, there was this jellyfish invasion, and I was in there with my camera, and it's just a whole new experience. Like, it really makes you just passionate about, like, you know, you already love what you do, but it just gives you that extra passion and something new to.
It's just exciting to experiment with something like that. Well, I actually have a really great underwater session planned. It's for me and my husband and Laura and her fiance, and we're the four of us going to go tubing down the Chattahoochee, and we're bringing the underwater camera, and then we're just going to pass it off between the two of us.
Wait. Have you seen the Chattahoochee in the water? You need to make sure you're above Atlanta.
It's not dirty. I shoot there all the time. It's clean.
So I have a question about, it's Mike Coletta's question. I have a question about the shot here. How did you light it?
Actually, I don't do any lighting at all with any of my underwater. It's just completely natural light. So
it looks like you must have had a decent shutter speed, and did you have to really pump up the ISO?
No, I actually just took the photograph how I normally would, because I shoot manual, and I probably have my ISO on 400, and I always shoot, like, this is a rule for me. I shoot with all primes, but I always shoot on 1.4 or 1.2, so all of the images except, you know, family formals are shot at 1.4, 1.2, no matter what. And
wow. Okay. So was this an outdoor pool then?
Yeah, it was, and it was probably, we had photographed inside, and then we went outside. It was probably around 5 o'clock, but I think it's the way that I edit my images, because I overexpose in camera, and then I overexpose, you know, when I'm editing, and then my action, like I have a custom recipe that I run on my images, that overexposes them too. So I think that it may look like it's being lit, but it's just...
it's fake light.
It's just, you know, the way that I shoot. Like, all of my images have that. They're very light.
That's one of the things that I love about your work also, Laura, is that there was a point in my own career where I started looking at my work and where I liked each individual image. When I looked at them on my website as a whole, it felt like there was like 7 different photographers who had contributed to the work on my website.
I think everybody's felt that way.
And then I looked at your staff and a list of my other favorite photographers that I have, and what I saw was consistency from image to image. It always felt like a Laura Leslie photograph. It's like you could spot it a mile away, like not just with your composition, but the way that you process your images afterwards and all that kind of stuff. And can you walk us through like some of your post-processing that you do on your images?
Yeah, I have a lot of people, like, you know, people ask me, how do you process your images? And, you know, I just pretty much, for my first year, I would run different actions on every picture. I'm like, this looks cool, everything was way inconsistent. And then when I realized, I'm like, hey, consistency is a really big part of having your business. That just dawned on me. So one day it probably took me 2 months, I just sat down, I was determined to get my images consistent. I'm like, what do I have to do? And I created my own recipe from red leaf actions. And I run 4 actions on my images, but they're all at different percentages. So I think I use, I haven't even looked at it in so long. It's just, I think it's like velvet sage. Hold on, I can look it up.
And you're mentioning action, so I imagine you're doing all of this in Photoshop. Do you use Lightroom at all?
No, I don't use Lightroom. I use Bridge and Photoshop. So, yeah, I use Film Pink, Provence, Alpen, and Velvet Sage, and I just run those at different percentages. and that's my action. So I just sat down and I tweaked that and tweaked it and tweaked it, and I'm like, okay, I like this, and I'm sticking with it, and that is the action that I run on every single image.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat these to you because I know everyone in chat is going to want me to put these in chat, so they have them.
That I've said it publicly.
I know. I wasn't expecting to do that, to be honest with you.
And I don't know, Tim, did you get that?
I got the first, so I got Velvet Sage, and I think something pink. Film pink. Okay.
I renamed these, like, I mean, shortcut, but I think they're still like Film Pink, Provence, Alpine, and Velvet Sage.
Well, even with you giving us the exact ones you use, there's no way anyone's going to be able to have your work look just like Laura's, because it's Laura's. You know, like this is your love child. You know, like, and everyone's photographs are going to be different. Even if we all processed it with the same action, it's going to look completely different. Which is why places like Red Leaf or Sarah Cornish or the girls from Pure can make a great career out of selling actions, because if I buy their actions and you buy their actions and 1,000 other people buy their actions, it doesn't mean that all of our work is going to look the same. It's still going to look very different.
I have every action under the sun. Like, I could probably buy a new car with what I've spent in actions, and I just use 4 of them. Like, yeah, crazy. You just feel like you have to buy them all, and then
that's how it works.
Well, yeah. Now these are actions directly in Photoshop.
Yes.
And a company called Red Leaf is the one who created these actions. But Laura, instead of just taking just Red Leaf's actions and running them on her images different every time, she decided to combine them and tweak them into her own recipe to give it the Laura Leslie feel. So even if you guys go and buy these 4 actions, that will give you a start to getting this very breezy, romantic feel that Laura has to her images, but you'll be able to tweak it and make it your own. And you might find some other actions that Red Leaf sells, or one that, you know, Sarah Cornish sells, that you can add to it and even further it on your own.
Yeah, and I would say that's what you need to do, is like really just sit down and find out what works for you. And even if you can't decide on something, then just pick something and run it on your images for a month, and then sit back down, because, you know, run it on reception lighting, daylight lighting, and then sit back down, because you're never going to be happy with your images. Like, I've wanted to change mine, you know, a couple times, and I'm just like, no, don't change it. Just leave it how it is. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny because ever since talking to you about this months and months and months ago, Laura, for the first time, it was new to me. Like, to use the same action on every single image was kind of just like, what? It was like a light bulb moment, but then there was a whole sense of fear that struck over me, because I was just like, how in the world do you make this possible? And so for the past couple of months, I've been using your advice and going through my images and trying to find something that consistently looks great on all different lighting scenarios. And I've come down to 2 actions. One that I use for my newborns, and then one that I use for everything else. But I still haven't been able to bring it down to just one.
That's great, though, to narrow
There's really only one essential difference between my own recipes that separates my newborns from everything else, but I would still like to get it to a point where I can do everything the same. But newborn skin just sometimes needs a little extra light touch to it. So
anyway, I watched your chat because I just got the message saying, are you still here? So yeah, I'll be getting it here in a minute.
Okay. Yeah. Laura, you're going to get a message on your screen, and it says, are you still here? It's from Google+. Just say yes.
Yeah. Okay. Or else it'll kick you out.
Mm-hmm. I love the picture of the baby on the couch. Go back.
Hold on. And, you know, Tim and I, oh, good gosh, I think it makes me start from the beginning. Tim and I were talking last week about how we keep having all these great guests on here, and it makes you realize how much more I have to grow.
Yeah, really.
And it's almost like I wish that I could spend, you know, a week with each one of our guests and learn from them. But, you know, even let's say, you know, Scott Green's out there, Ryan's out there from Ryan, and Mike Coletta's out there, all former guests on the show. I'm trying to find a photo you talked about, Kathleen. And if I spent a week with them and they taught me everything they know, I would still not be Scott Green or Ryan or Mike. Mm-hmm. I would still be me. Mm-hmm. Is this the shot you're talking about?
Yeah, the baby.
Yeah.
What were you shooting through here?
The baby was actually on the couch, and I was up on the balcony, and I just saw it. So I'm like, oh, well, she was changing his diaper, and I went up to the balcony, and I was shooting through the balcony. So I love to do that. I love to shoot through things, and you know, like, put my lens behind a tree and, you know, shoot through it so there's only part of the image peeking out. I think that adds, you know, a lot of, you know, just adds to the composition. And I just noticed myself doing that more and more and more. So I'm always like behind a tree or, you know, popping out from somewhere.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah, and I, like I said earlier, the environment is a big part of, you know, what you're shooting. You know what I'm saying? Is that right? In this image, that's.
Yeah, you have to pick. You know, you have to pick a good location for the session. But I really, really love it when, like, especially in brides or newborns, when you do the session at the home. Or, you know, bride gets ready at her house, just because, you know, hotels are nice and everything, but it gives so much more personal, you know, personal element to the pictures, and there's like little knickknacks and details around the home that mean something to them. And so I really like it when, you know, I get to shoot in someone's home.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to backlight your images, or do you know, what's your preference as far as when you're outside and you're looking at the sun? What time of day do you like to shoot and all that kind of stuff?
I usually shoot, you know, a couple hours before sunset, but I always backlight, you know, so the sun is always behind them, always. So that's like a big.
That's what gives your images such a sweet, airy feel to them, which we all really love.
And really shooting with the 85 1.2 at 1.2 and backlighting, it just gives you this amazing, you know, at sunset, like soft glow, and people, you know, they ask me to just shoot at 1.2 and like shoot at that aperture, and you're going to get a really beautiful, you know, look to your image. So everything's going to be so.
Kathleen's dog's going off and she muted herself.
I thought that was Kathleen. I thought she changed.
You're getting pretty manly there, Kathleen. Okay, so we're at the hour mark. Why don't we open it up? Kathleen, first off, let me ask you, do you have any more questions?
I have one more question. One more.
And then we'll open it up to chat.
Yes, let me shut my dog up.
What kind of dog is that?
He's a Labradoodle. Rufio, come.
Oh, that's right. I've seen pictures of him.
Okay, so this might be a difficult question for you, Laura, but I want you to tell me one thing that you feel like is your biggest strength in photography and one thing that you feel like is your biggest weakness. And if you can start with your weakness, then we can end on a high note with your strength.
All right, I would say like the biggest challenge, weakness would be balance. So is that still, mine froze up?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. But yeah, finding a balance between photography and life, and it's just, that has been the ultimate #1 hardest thing that I've had to do. But I think, like, you know, if you sacrifice your photography, or, you know, if you sacrifice family, then your photography is going to be doing really good, but, you know, vice versa. So that's really, really important to find balance. And, like, I always constantly have to remind myself to find balance. And also, I think, like with the emails, that's a huge struggle for me to keep up with that.
Like replying to people when they get to you? Oh, me too. Oh, my word. I'm surprised people even stick around sometimes.
Kathleen doesn't respond to me.
I don't. I like if you one-word answers. I'm like,
I will send her an email. I will send an email. What do you think about this, this, and this? I got these ideas, and I'll get an email back that says, cool. Wait, I thought it was about asking you a question. There was,
I do remember seeing a couple of those go by.
I wanted some feedback. It was like, do you want to do this, this, or this? And the answer is cool.
And see, like, I'm sitting at my end saying, check, I'm done. Great job, Kathleen. You responded.
Hey, there you go. That's a good way to go.
Well, sometimes she really expands, and I don't get just the cool. I get a long email that says, sounds good.
That's my experience.
I'll write really detailed. When I do return an email, they'll be super detailed with all these ideas, and so I know that it's going to take me a while to do it.
Oh, see, now with my clients, that's just with you. I'm very sorry, Mike. You're going to get cool and sounds good. But with my clients, I'm the same way. If I have this thought in my head, I'm just like, it's going to take me a while to get this out, and I'm about to get interrupted by a diaper change or whatever. So it needs to wait. And then a week later, I'm just like, I really need to call them back or respond.
I think just reminding yourself, like, I don't know if that's something that I'll ever be good at because, it's a process. Like everything's a process. I'll sit down and make a list and, I'll get all these programs to streamline my business and a lot of things help, but, like Shoot Q, questionnaires in the blog, like I've come a long way, but it's still with the emails. I think that, everyone struggles with that if you get, a lot of emails. So that's something that I'm always constantly working on is trying to stay on top of it because, I have someone come in and help me, but you don't necessarily want them to reply to those emails. So that's something that you have to do firsthand with that. And that's something I would want to do. I would never, relinquish that to someone else. But I guess as far as strengths, like I've always relied on my passion. Like it has always taken me through the hard times, the good times, no matter what, my passion is always there. So it was there from the very beginning. It's still here, and it terrifies me that, if I ever lost that, like, what would I do? So, but I hope that I never, ever lose that because I know that that will carry me through anything.
Very good.
Well, your passion certainly comes through with your work, Laura. We are all very, very, very inspired by your work. We all feel creatively challenged when we're looking at your stuff and saying, oh my gosh, I want to try that angle or try that perspective on things. God has given you a really detailed and artistic eye that I'm not sure someone can learn. I think you have it or you don't.
I think you can get better at it. I don't think you can ever get great at it.
I agree. I can agree with that.
Yeah. So that's a struggle for some people. So maybe before we go to the chat and open up for the questions there, Laura graciously, I think it was last night, was it, Laura, that you offered? Laura must be you stay up late just like I do. So it was like 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock last night. She says, hey, what do you think about this? I said, sure. So we're going to have to do something a little bit different than we normally do.
I'm really excited about this, by the way. I'm like, when I heard she was doing this, I was like, seriously, can I not be a host tonight and just be out in the chat room, please?
You tried. You didn't come on right away.
I know. Yeah. I was attempting.
And, there may be some people out, normally you have people sign up so we know that they're interested. There may be some people that's kind of not their thing. Not everybody wants to learn a different way. So maybe what we need to do is pick 3 numbers. I will then announce those names. And then we'll see if any of the 3 don't want, if that's not something they want. What do you think of that? Is that all right? You don't like that? Kathleen's giving me a look.
I'm just saying you pick somebody. Who's not going to want it? Seriously.
All right. Awesome. We can try it that route.
Are they all photographers?
We'll try it that way.
Okay.
So
right, like if it's not something that you feel like you could utilize or use, then you can feel free to gift it to someone else. How about that?
All right, we'll do
Everybody's
that.
asking, what are you talking about? Though?
I know, they don't even know.
So here's what the gift is. Laura, Laura, why don't you tell us?
Okay, I'm going to give away a 2-hour mentoring session, and that will cover, if you're local in Atlanta, we can meet in person. If you're out of the state, then we'll do it via Skype. And I have a questionnaire, me and my questionnaires, I love them. But, I'll send you the questionnaire, and I'll ask you questions about your business, what do you want to learn more about, and then we'll just go start the session, we'll schedule a date, and we'll cover anything from lighting, how I light my receptions, how I post-process, how I run my business, everything. So I'm a complete open book with my mentors.
So I may need to modify this. We had a lot of people watching. We probably have a number of people who are not logged in the chat. So if you're watching and not logged in the chat, but you want to be eligible, you have to be logged in the chat. So you have to register.
Right,
so
we have 37 people logged in and 47 watching.
Yeah.
Okay, so while the people are logging in, let me ask you one question, Laura.
Yeah, we'll give you a little bit of time to log in.
Don't give so much away that you won't have anything left to give away in your mentorship. But you do all natural light photography, but obviously at your receptions, you're doing an external, some sort of a light.
Yeah, I do off-camera lighting. So.
Okay.
And there's just so much to go over. Like 2 hours really isn't enough to go over like all the questions in detail that most people have. And like tonight, that's the first time I've ever said what I'm
shocked. Seriously, we've talked about this so many times on the phone, and I'm like, no, you don't have to tell us the exact recipe. You don't have to tell us what you're doing to exactly process. And then
Good job.
Well, I know that, like, I've learned from so many other photographers. That's how I built my business. There's other photographers that inspire me. You know, I ask them questions. And so as far as, like, sharing stuff about my business, you know, I want to be pretty open about it. I want to help other photographers because I wish that I had that in the beginning. Instead of Google, literally I was like, how do you know, create a diptych in Photoshop? What is a layer? I mean, that's how bad it was. I didn't have anyone to ask. So to help someone else start, you know, that means a lot to me.
Well, we really appreciate you being such an open book and for giving away this amazing prize. I mean, I don't know if you saw chat, but as soon as people figured out what it was, it's like the chat window started going so much faster and you couldn't keep up with everyone saying, oh my gosh, I want to win it, I want to win it.
I didn't see anybody say no.
Nobody said no. So
no one has said no. Yeah.
So I haven't had to register in a long time, Laura. You had to tonight. How long did it take you to register in chat?
It just took me a couple of seconds. I just had to click the sign in button and just put my name.
So then I guess we're safe to say anybody who wanted to sign in has already signed in.
That's right. So let's get with it.
Pick a number between 1 and 32. 33. 1 and 33. And if it happens to be me, Tim, or Kathleen, we'll be disqualified.
No,
what do you have to qualify that? Come on.
Come on.
Hey, who do you want to pick a number?
I'm sorry, Laura. You pick a number between 1 and 33.
Okay. Do I need to write it down?
No, just say it out loud.
Okay, 25.
Yeah, I knew she's going to pick a number way down there.
I really like that it's random. That's nice.
Okay. I see it. Paper Petunia. Paper Petunia. Is Paper Petunia still out there?
Is that the person that just said logged in? Whew! Right at the last minute. Just made it.
I don't see.
Yes, you are logged in if you are chatting.
Yes. Paper Petunia, are you chatting with us? You have to still be. Yep, there she is, or he.
Oh my God!
Yay! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
And we'll figure everything out. We'll set up a date and talk about it more.
And I love Alyssa on here. She says, "I'm so mad."
Well,
just be honest with us, will you?
Would want to mentor with me.
So Paper Petunia, she will just email you, Laura, to set something up.
Yeah, just email me and we'll figure out the date and everything, and I'll give her the link to the the questionnaire for the session.
And you know, thank you, Laura. We try to do a giveaway every month, and Laura saved us with May because we're almost ending May with nothing. Yes, thank you so much. You saved us for May. And you know, if you didn't win tonight, we try and do one every month. May not be able to do one every month, but we try and do one. So if you didn't win tonight, you may win in the future. We even had Melissa Sanchez, who I don't see out there tonight, who won twice in the past, and she's taken herself out of a few giveaways just because she didn't want to keep winning.
Hey, I'm putting that link to Rachel Brinke's business. How to know when you're ready to go pro site into chat. Since we talked about it earlier, I just posted it.
Okay, so won't we do 10 minutes of questions from chat, and then we'll wrap up the show and then come back in and do the post show.
I'm just reading her comment. Like, I can finally see the chat. So she's excited. That makes me excited.
Oh, yeah, she wasn't really excited.
She wasn't even able to see the chat earlier?
I think she just logged in. She was like, just logged in.
Oh, wow.
So
that is awesome.
If anyone else wants to do mentoring sessions, just email me, and we can definitely set that up. So.
And that was a question somebody just asked. You know, can you do sessions outside of this? And yeah, just contact you, and you can set something up. I imagine you do those. They're not free.
No, yeah, I charge $300 per hour for those, and 2 hours is recommended because I've tried to do 1 hour and 1 hour, and it's just, it's not enough time for all the questions.
It's not.
And you can narrow down, what we're going to talk about.
Okay. Okay, first question from Scott Green. is how many weddings a year do you shoot comfortably? Do you want to shoot comfortably?
This year, or next year for 2013, I want to cut it off at 25. Like, you know, this year was 20. This year will be 27, but I don't want to do any more than that. That's my limit to where I feel like, you know, I can give my best to everyone, and that would be crazy to do more. And I hear of some photographers shooting more, and I don't know how they do all that, because then you have to, with 25 weddings, that's 25 engagement sessions, plus, you know, portrait sessions and travel and everything. So that's my limit.
You travel. How far do you travel for some of these?
I think I only have like 4 weddings in Georgia this year. The rest are out of the state.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a lot of traveling, like a lot to Florida. I have one next month in DC. 2013, I got my first international wedding, which I was like crazy excited.
That's big. Where are you going again?
Belgium.
That's so awesome.
That's nice. Now, you were when we did the pre-show, you were in DC, weren't you?
I was actually supposed to go to DC, but I went to Miami at the end.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. I was in Miami or Palm Beach when I talked to you. So I have 3 flights to Palm Beach this month. 3.
I don't know how you do it.
Wow.
It's just wedding.
So I think this was earlier. I missed it, but somebody was asking, how do you find how are you getting these clients? Because they're not all local, so you can't be advertising worldwide, other than your webpage, which of course is worldwide.
I think that, you know, it just started last year and this year, especially this year. I started to get, you know, a lot of travel weddings, but, you know, it's pretty much like a wedding I have in DC. I photographed her friend's wedding in 2011. She was a bridesmaid. And then also a lot of clients that live in New York, and, you know, in the north, they get married in Miami. So, you know, like I'll go up there for engagement session and wedding in Miami, but I don't know, just people on my Facebook page, they just find me. So.
Okay. Now, are any of them maybe a local person who's just getting married out of state?
I've had a few. I've actually had a couple where they're from Atlanta, but they're getting married in Miami, so we can do the engagement session. You know, that works out really nice.
Well, and you used to live in Florida for a while, and you had your business there, right?
I did. I started there, and I lived there for 3 years. So
that helped you get clientele there, and now you have clientele here, which is pulling you back and forth really nicely. But Belgium, how did you get that one?
Her parents, they live over there, and like their family lives in Florida, so she was talking to me for a while, and we did their engagement session, and then, you know, she was first talking about it, and she sent me a box of Belgium chocolates with a really sweet thank you note that is actually the background on my computer right now. And she's like, here's a taste of what's to come. And I'm just like, I think I ran around the house. I was so excited.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Well, I guess this also relates back to how you talked about balance before between photography and life. I mean, if you're traveling out of state a lot, yeah, you don't want to do a lot of weddings. That would interfere with your family life for certain.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, since a lot of them are out of state and maybe in areas where you don't visit all the time, and you have to go there and do an engagement session and the wedding, how are you? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that just depends. Like, you know, if they want me to do the engagement session there, well, after I have them fill out the questionnaire, then we'll kind of decide. You know, I'll be like, hey, we should do it here or here, and you know, so.
So how are you choosing locations when it's not your home turf?
I don't know. I just always figure it out. You know, I Google, I go check it out. I'll look online. I'll ask if they have any special places. You know,
you call other photographers?
No, I don't. Like, I look it up online. Like in Florida, I know a lot of those locations, but
from living there, I'm sure you do.
And if you just Google, like, you can see other photographers that have shot sessions there, and like, I'm pretty confident in myself that I can show up somewhere, and no matter what it looks like, even if
it's going to look like you.
Like, I can make it look how I want it to, but
absolutely,
having a good location is important. So,
yeah. And Kathleen, I know you never want us to meet in person.
I don't.
But you know, she's talking about just going to a location where you've never been before and finding all these great locations. I lived in Swanee forever, and I drive around and go, there's nothing here. I can't find any spot to shoot around here. I need you if you don't want to meet me, just take a photo of the location with your phone, with the GPS, send it to me, and then I can go there later.
Well, you know, I don't know about anyone else, but for me to give all of my secrets away, it's probably the same secret as anyone else. If you see a no trespassing sign, it probably means that it's the best location you can shoot at ever.
Yeah, they're not
being kicked out of places because
yes.
They're not quite.
And I'm sure Kathleen's going to be able to sweet talk her way out a lot better than
that's
you or
what I'm
I.
saying. They're not quite as nice to us as they are to Kathleen and Laura. One of the questions, you're referring to, you're saying we sometimes, Laura. Do you bring a second shooter?
Yeah, I have. It depends. I give them a choice if they want a second shooter or not. So, and I explain the reasons why they should have a second shooter. And also at the wedding, if it's over a certain amount, you know, if it's like more than 150, 200 people, then I will absolutely 100% require a second shooter.
So I will just start packing my bags for Belgium now to second shoot with you.
I'm excited about that. So.
Now, have you? I don't have your page pulled up, but you've been published somewhere? Oops, there we go. I just got the message.
Yeah, it's if you go to my blog or website.
Oh yeah, I got that pulled up. Why didn't I just see that? Right there. So the question out in chat was, how did you get published? How did you?
The first time I was published was in the Knot, and I just opened my inbox one day, and it was the Knot saying, "Hey, we found this image on your blog. Can we publish it?" And I'm like, "Heck yes, you can publish it." So. I was like, really? You want to publish this image? And I think a lot of it is just blog. Like, make sure your work is out there. Make sure it's online. Make sure that people are noticing you. You submit to wedding blog, Style Me Pretty. And I would say that that's the #1 factor that really accelerated my business is, going out and shooting. And I know that I'm going to submit it, so I'm going to put in effort for my work to be worthy enough for those blogs. And people are going to see that, and if they see your name over and over again, they're going to start to recognize you, and they'll go to your blog or just do a random Google search and find the image. So that's happened a couple of times, and I did a heart session with the giant heart, and I submitted that to Green Wedding Shoes, and it actually went on like 30 different sites. It just went, there were small sites, but it was all over the web. And Brides Magazine saw that online, so that will definitely get you noticed if you submit to blogs. And
now I was published on one blog, but they made me sign something saying that the work I was submitting and that was being published wasn't going to be on any other blogs. Have you ever had that?
Yeah,
you signed an exclusive.
Yeah, and most of the blogs are like that, and out of respect, they ask you not even to blog the images on your own blog before it's published. So I have
before, but you can do it after.
Yeah, and I have a pretty big backlog because you have to wait, for them to
get it up there.
And they always ask that. So.
Right.
Well, you have a number of people who volunteered to be your second shooter in Belgium.
Yeah.
Scott Green volunteered.
Hey, I was the first to ask.
He has a timestamp, and his is I don't know. Yeah, you were, because his is only 2 minutes ago, so you did beat him. All right, so let's do 2 more questions, and we need to wrap this part up.
Someone asked, who does your branding? I think you mentioned her earlier. Maybe it was before the show started.
Leslie Vega Design. She's based out of Gainesville, and she is amazing. I sent her, actually, for my branding, what I did is I wanted it to be, personal, so I took a picture of my grandmother's china plate. I'm like, I want this to be based around my branding because I love the pattern, and the meaning, and it's a family heirloom. I took a picture of my plate, and I sent her that picture. And I'm like, this is what I want. And she just finished my rebranding process, so it hasn't gone live yet. There's a little bit of that on my blog and website, but she is that good. She can just look at a picture and look at your work, and she's like, okay, this is you. It will be so you. And she's very affordable.
Who's this?
Leslie Vega.
Okay.
Leslie Vega Designs.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say that's so important. Like, I mean, I've slacked on that. That's been on my list for years, but just having it done makes, gives you a brand. It gives you an identity, so people recognize your work.
Yeah, Kathleen's agreed to do some of that for our show.
Yes. Right.
All right, one more question.
And with all of my experience in that field, it'll be fantastic.
It's got to be better than what I've done.
Well, I did my own, and I would rather have called Leslie Vega Designs to do it, and someday I will be.
It will save you so much time in front of the computer.
Can I tell you, it took me forever, and mine is very simplistic and probably boring.
Well, Kathleen, I will double the budget.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
What's 2 times 0?
Right, exactly. I gotcha.
All right. So, any more questions out there?
How do you get such a pale skin tone? It looks like film. I haven't been following this, but
no, that's a good one.
That's a good question. Go for it.
Well, it's the way that I overexpose. I overexpose in camera, and then I pull my images into Adobe Bridge and Camera Raw, and I overexpose them a little bit more, like +4 or 5. And then I run my action, which overexposes it. So I think that just overall gives, a light, airy feel to my images. Overexpose.
In your camera, you say you're shooting manual, so you get what is the proper exposure, and then how much overexposed are you going?
Probably 2 stops.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I really overexpose.
Now, do you not care about? I'm not looking at any of the images right now when I ask this. This is just what's popping into my head. So when you're overexposing, like, what about your bride in her white dress? Are you fine with overexposing it?
That's the problem. The main problem I have, why I want to start shooting film, because it's so frustrating. But yeah, I will still overexpose, but when I'm editing, like if there's something that's blown out, because you shoot a RAW file, you can edit it, and I'll just do recovery on it. So just those images will have recovery.
And do you do like a recovery on it, but mask out everything but like the dress?
No, I just edit in Camera Raw. Like after I adjust my exposure, I'm done and I run my action on them. But I mean, that's the final step with everything. But also another thing is if you shoot in the shade, like I never shoot in bright, they're always facing away. They're backlit. So their dress isn't really going to be blown out unless, it's a ceremony and they're right there in bright sun.
You may want to look at that D800 because it has the widest dynamic range of any digital camera.
Oh, I don't know. That would be a whole new camera system.
I know. I'm kidding with you. All right. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming out here. We're so excited to have you out here, and thank you so much for the giveaway. And everybody out in chat, thank you so much for coming out to see Laura tonight. And our winner tonight, what was her name?
Paper something?
Paper Petunia.
There you go.
Paper Petunia. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, everybody else, for coming out. We had several of our previous guests, Mike Coletta, Ryan, how do you say his last name? I always get that messed up. I'm horrible with names. Ryan and Scott Green, as our past guests who are out there that I've seen. Maybe somebody else. Thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
And thank you for the great questions. No show next week unless something comes up. We're not going to do a show next week, and then the week after we'll be back.
And I see a lot of my friends out there on the chat list. Like, I just been peeking at it. So, hey guys, thank you.
You're in Scott Green's Facebook group, right?
Yeah, the JPEG.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a number of people from that group out there tonight too. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming out and supporting Laura.
Thank you. That was an honor. I'm glad.
All right, Laura, I'll call you tomorrow, and we'll go ahead and start searching for flights for Belgium together. I'm really excited.
I know I can't get it yet because, I have to wait. So I'm excited to purchase it when it opens up.
Yeah, and we're
recap, or is that?
We're going to do the recap as soon as we finish this up. What she's talking about is we have a new segment, a much smaller segment, so you don't have to listen to the show. We're just kind of do a wrap up really quick. If you are going to leave, think about clicking on that Google link right below chat. It will take you out. So if you want to hold on before you do that, because once you click on that link, it'll take you off the page. That helps support the show a little bit. And if you're listening on Stitcher or on YouTube or somewhere else and want to be a part of the group, come out to Facebook, search for jpeg2RAW, and join our group out there. We'd love to have you. There's a lot of great conversation going on. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for coming out, everyone, and thank you, Laura.
I'm sorry, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Thanks, Tim.
Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your 3-day weekend, everybody.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.